long ago in the distant past, I think the very first episode of this sub-series on this channel, the first episode of Unearthed ARTcana was Psionic Options, I think, right?
I'm not even sure if it was called Unearthed ARTcana yet.
I think it may have been, but there definitely was an intro then. And look, there was an intro, I hope. And since then, there's been a whole lot of new Unearthed Arcanas with lots of new subclasses, and we're all loving it. We're eating them up. It's great. And then last night, they come out with Psionic Options Revisited, which I was not expecting. I was, this came out of nowhere. In my mind, at least. I'm sure it probably wasn't out of nowhere.
I'm sure someone thought about it at a point.
Yeah, this isn't...
It didn't materialise from nothing.
It popped out the ground.
It popped out the ground. There's a lot of changes to this, and we're going to be talking about just one of the classes today. We're going to talk about the Psionite, which is very sci-fi. I can't remember if the name has changed. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're not going to be comparing it to the original version of it, I don't think, too much, just because... That would be a lot, and I haven't opened it up. I've not refreshed my mind with that one. That's not really important either. I think last time in the first video about Psionics, way back in, I think it was November or December. Anyway,
eons
2019
ago.
is
in the before time.
In the before times, it's a different world back then. I definitely had some like concerns. I was confused about like what psionic stuff is in D&D. Like I hadn't really. I felt there was inconsistency. I don't even know if that's true, but like. Between like how it worked from different creatures and in the classes that it released. So this whole first page and a half of this Unearthed Arcana is talking about psionic stuff in D&D over different editions and how they are talking about it in 5th edition. We're not going to read it verbatim. Obviously there's a link to this article if you want to read that as we go along. That's a good idea. But I think it's pretty good, and it covers a broad range of stuff but it's still grounding it a little bit, and that's I think pretty helpful.
Yeah, I like about this introduction is it basically it tells you exactly what they wanted kind of out of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember we were talking in one of the other subclasses, like we were happy that they were explaining, like I think in the Artificer one, they were explaining what they were thinking about with an ability. They weren't just like saying what it does, they were explaining why it does that. And I think that's like a newer thing. And it's good to obviously let people do what they want with the design and then the gameplay stuff, but I think it's good to have a baseline that you can deviate from if you want. So having it being grounded so you can then unground it is better than being just like lost in space floating around, oh, where are we?
Yeah.
The main thing that this Unearthed Arcana is doing for all of the 3 classes in it is they have introduced a mechanic that's the same for all of them, which I think is very cool as an idea, because again they're not doing the Mystic class. They've talked about that.
Yeah.
It didn't really work out. So I think having something that's consistent throughout all the Psionic classes it is very cool, and it makes a lot of sense. If you're not going to make a whole class out of it, then that's a good like alternative that makes it feel consistent.
Yeah, it makes them feel like they're part of the same
like
thing.
Type of thing.
Like
exactly,
spells.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. So yeah, Psionic Knight. The first thing they have here, and I like this as well. Actually, they talk about the different kinds of Psionic Knight that would exist in like the official D&D settings. They specifically talk about like the Gith. Is it Githyanki or the Githzerai? Githyanki, I think, right?
Yeah,
I got to check now. Yeah, the Githyanki, which again really awesome because I actually really like the Gith as a playable race, but there was no way to play basically as like a proper Gith,
Just
like,
a
psychic
war master.
fighter. Exactly, yeah, you just had to be a fighter or a monk or whatever, which was, you could do it, but it wasn't... This means you can just be straight up the Gith Yankee fighter who's a psionic, which is very cool.
Just helps clarify in your mind, giving you kind of points of reference.
Exactly.
What to expect from it.
For what I'm drawing, I did not give the race much thought, because A, it's in full plate, it's got a helmet, it could be anything under there, apart from like a gnome or a halfling.
Unless they've had enlarged.
Yeah, it's a halfling sitting in the top of it, and then it's just got loose legs flapping underneath. Okay, so Psionic Talent at 3rd level. This is the thing that everyone gets. Everyone gets a Psionic Talent die, and when you roll it and you add that to something, an ability, and it changes across the classes what it does. If you roll a 6, so you get if it's a d6 for example, if you roll the highest number on your Psionic die, then the next time you use it, it is weakened because you are like exhausting yourself. And if you roll the minimum number on that, then it goes back up to the next one up to a maximum of
D12.
Depending on your level. Yeah, on D12.
On your level, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Which is I think it's very cool. I like risk-reward stuff, especially in D&D. I feel like there's not actually loads of that. There's a lot of just, it'll be good, because you want to use your ability and have it do a good thing. But then, I think this is a cool little system for that.
Oh, definitely.
And it's very unique as well. In 5th edition, at least. I'm sure there's things in similar things and other things, but...
You're also getting that psi replenishment, so you, as a bonus action, you can kind of reset it once a day as well. So if you do get that bad, I guess in quotation, luck and roll like a 6 and a 4, and it's gone after 2 uses, you can still get it back.
Exactly. Although, as we know, you can never roll more than a 1 on a d4, so you're guaranteed to get it back up to 6.
It's true, you're never going to lose a d4. You never roll a 4 on a d4. It's impossible.
It just doesn't happen.
It's also flexible expendability. Like, your character could go on an absolute tear.
Yeah. But, like, every time you're rolling it, it's like, every time you roll your Psionic die, you're going to be like, ooh, just to see if you keep it is going to be, like, an exciting moment. And that's before you even do your ability and stuff.
Seeing it change around, like, particularly when you get to higher levels of the die, naturally goes up. Higher and higher dies, seeing the changing around and maybe the escalating and decreasing in your power could be really cool to describe how maybe your character's hair begins to float as you get super powerful with it. And stuff like that.
I think it's just so cool, and it really like captures that like something that maybe you're not completely in control of. Like it's a kind of, which is often like a trope of like psychic characters. You know, they're not fully mastery of their powers. That's like a thing that they get over time, which is true of all like magic users and stuff. But this is something that like has a random component. You don't know if it's going to work. But I don't think that would ever stop you from using it. That's the other thing, because the things that it gives you, especially for the fighter, it's not like, oh, I'm not going to use a spell slot because they're probably past their save. Like it's different to that.
Talking about just extremes, I think I have to touch on this because it's
sure.
In Warhammer with psychic powers, because I see a lot of influences in this. If you roll double 1s or double 6s, you get a perils, which is a bad thing happen to you.
Right. Yeah.
So it's also like it's kind of a very similar system of risk reward with casting, and you basically take like damage in Warhammer. It's a war game in the end of the day, and D&D isn't a war game at its core. So having you cast a spell and then maybe getting a mind freeze would be different. Would be bad. Like you lose like this many hit points. That'd feel bad. Because then you'd fall unconscious or something, and that would just suck.
And you'd waste your turn, and you'd be dead.
Yeah.
You do nothing and lose health.
And then you'd watch all your friends doing something around the table and the monsters fight till you come back and roll a death save after you trying to do something. That feels so bad.
This is always gonna be beneficial, even if you lose it. It's going annoying, but at least it did something. Like it's I think it's very cool.
We should probably say what they actually do.
Yes, we should. I just wanted to cover it a little bit because all the classes do use this like mechanic to a certain extent,
and we all like it.
Yeah, it is very cool. Really like
good.
it.
Consensus.
Okay, so
good. We have reached a quorum.
Okay, so the fighter can use their psionic talent options. They're pretty simple, which is good because already it's kind of a complicated mechanic to keep a track of potentially. So it's good that these are simplistic. I think the first one is protective field. You roll your psionic talent die, and then you use your reaction to reduce damage that a creature is taking, essentially.
Yep.
And then it's also got with your intelligence modifier in there. So it's very cool, very instantaneous, just, damage reduction. It's not a huge amount of damage reduction, I guess a d6 plus your intelligence, but at low level, if you're like 3rd level, when you're getting this, a d6, and you might have an intelligence modifier of maybe, 3 if you're going into this class deliberately. That would be high for a fighter, obviously, but if you know you're doing this.
Yeah.
That could be very handy and definitely like save you in some tight spots. And again, I like this. It's tied to a resource, sort of, in that like you might not get it back, but there's a good chance that you'll keep it. I really like psi-powered leap for a couple of reasons. I like anything that makes you jump bigger. We know this. I once made a character who had an 80-foot long jump distance. This thing actually removes an issue I have with that character, which is usually when you jump in combat, it uses your movement, so you can't jump further than your movement. Whereas with this, you roll your die, and you extend the distance of your jump, double what you roll on the die in feet, so it's a bit weird. But that goes beyond your movement. Or the extra distance costs you 1 foot. Yeah. So it's really cool. So you could charge forward, use your full movement, and then jump, and then get like another square at low level. Or maybe another 2, potentially, if you roll well.
So out of like, just to math hammer it a little bit, If you had, say, 14 intelligence at this level, which is, third level, that's pretty believable because you're going to be putting points in it. Definitely. That's plus 2. That's 2, 4, plus a d6 roll doubled.
Yeah.
So it's 8. It's like 16 feet. It's like 3 squares.
Again, it's very cool. I like that it's not like just you get damage. It's a movement thing, and it's something that's not super like ridiculous for a low level character. It's just that they're leaping forward, they're pushing themselves forward, and that's actually what I'm drawing here. Is this character's using their psychic power to launch themselves forward. So I really like that ability. It's very cool. I don't necessarily see it being used a lot, to be honest, but I like that it's there as an option. And the last one of your options with your Psionic Talent die is you basically...
do more damage.
You do more damage, which is obviously all well and good, and it's force damage as well. This is something that...
It's a good damage type.
It's a great damage type, of course. Unless you're fighting, I think, is it Helmed Horrors?
Helmed Horrors, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple things that are immune to force, but not many. I'm not sure the game's been as inconsistent as I think it has been, but I swear there's times when, like, something does psychic damage, and I'm like, shouldn't that be force damage? So this is force, which makes total sense, because you're using your psychic powers to force your weapons into people more. You're not, like, hitting them in their head. You're not hurting their brains.
You're not brain striking them.
Exactly. So that's cool stuff. Is it all using... I think for the Telekinetic Strike as well, actually, this is kind of important. It's not a bonus action, but you can only do it once per turn. So obviously a fighter's going to get a lot of attacks at some point, not at third level, but eventually you will have that. And I guess like this kind of will drop off when you're doing like 4 attacks, and you're going to get maybe like a D10 or whatever it would be at a higher level on that. It's obviously good, but it's not necessarily what you're going to be using it for. I think the protective field is going to like be more useful in the long run, just because damage reduction is so good.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But one thing I like about Telekinetic Strike with how it's worded is you can make a javelin character who uses telekinetic javelins because it's within 30 feet of you.
Yeah, that'd be very cool.
So you could be Magneto.
You lazily chuck it, and you go, and you push it in. That'd be cool. I like that a lot.
Particularly if you take some of these feats that there are in this module that we'll probably
They do have some new feats, yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about them. I haven't read them too carefully, but yeah.
Just to give a very, very quick... There's one that gives you basically permanent telekinesis, and there's another one that basically boosts these dies with what you can do with them.
Yeah.
And it can help flavour these characters if that's what you're going for, is what I feel like. And also a couple that make them a lot stronger.
No, it's true. That's kind of what I didn't like about them, is like... Anyway, it doesn't really matter too much. We might go into those a bit later.
Well, a separate video on each feat.
yeah, I'll draw it. I'll just write the words by hand. So you wait a bit, then you get your 7th level thing. So you've had 2 ability score improvements. So by now you might have pretty decent intelligence, assuming that you might be boosting that in your ability scores.
If you're a smart boy, you might.
If you're a smart lad, yeah. I like both of these things. Psionic Thrust. When you use your Telekinetic Strike, so this is already going... I think it's already recognised that basic description of the Telekinetic Strike would, like, drop off after a while. So this is a buff to it. Mm-hmm. You make... Basically, when you use the Telekinetic Strike to make them take a little extra damage, they make a strength saving throw against your DC, which is, intelligence, yada, yada, yada. And then they are knocked prone, or they are pushed 10 feet horizontally. I do like to say, 10 feet in any direction horizontally. You can't throw them into the air. Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Right. It's fun. It's not, like, super strong or anything, but it makes so much sense for a telekinetic character, pushing people around. Yeah. Very good stuff. And telekinetic movement... when you have your die available, so I guess it doesn't actually use it. Am I understanding that?
Yes, because it's a guaranteed decrease.
Yeah, that's guaranteed right, decrease. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So when you have it available, you can move an object or a willing creature, large or smaller, and other than yourself. So you can't throw yourself around with this. And basically, you can move them 30 feet to an unoccupied space. Now, I had a thought about this. Would you guys think of this as forced movement for opportunity attack stuff, for example? So could you have a guy who's stuck with like 8 orcs around him and then move them 30 feet out of there and not have them take opportunity attack?
It's weird because they are willing, aren't they?
Yeah, but you could choose to fail like a thunder wave and get pushed.
I would say no, because it's unexpected.
Right. Yeah, that was my thought as well. Because that's great. And also you could be charging in, and there's so many times where like, oh, I'd love to do a thing on my turn, but
Yeah.
way out of position, and like I can't
I throw the barbarian at them.
Yeah, you got the Silent Knight charging in, and then on his turn, not only you could make like a couple javelin throws just for fun, or you could move another guy up there, and then they have their movement as well.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool ability, and yeah, it does, as I say, it does guarantee that your psionic die decreases in one size. I guess that would mean that if it was on its lowest size already, you would lose it.
Yes,
I assume. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, it means there is a limited use.
Yeah,
although you could go down to 1 and hope you get lucky.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, that's very cool. And again, I like that it's not got loads of rules about it, because it could have been like, oh, you can do it on enemies, but then there would have had to have been loads of like, okay, you got to make these saves, and then it can't be that. Like, I like that it's like a non-combat thing. Well, it's a combat thing, but it's a non-violent combat thing, which is cool. And there's nothing saying you couldn't lift a large thing and then drop it on someone. No. Like that's fine.
You can move it 30 feet up.
Yeah, and there's no
weight.
Now, it does not have a weight limit, so I guess a large, like a 10-foot square block of iron. I don't know how many D10s that would be. Probably quite a few. I feel like
comedy art and
I feel like that
piano
might be
just drops on.
I feel like that's the kind of talk that gets a weight limit put on an ability. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut about that one. That's cool, because it does specify it can be horizontally, vertically, or both. So,
because for all you kids out there, remember that D&D diagonal is 5 foot as well, so you don't actually have to do maths in D&D for that kind of thing.
I think Matt Colville's got like a decent video where he talks about it. I think it's just the one where he talks about playing on a grid.
But it's not how the real world works, so that's what's confusing.
That's the thing, yeah. Okay, so 10th level. This is probably the only ability in here where I was like, alright, okay. So you get a Psi-Enhanced Metabolism. A great name, obviously. I was excited from that, but then I saw, it's only like one sentence. Rubbish. You get resistance to poison and psychic damage, and you're immune to the poison condition. Obviously, this is very good.
I love resistant to psychic.
That makes so much sense, especially as a lot of this class is kind of defensive, I feel. Which is I really appreciate. So that makes a lot of sense. I don't get the poison. Does that make sense?
I think when I looked at it, I just thought, well, I know there's quite a few other like like classes that at like a certain level, poison just stops happening to you. So
I feel like it's a common one.
That's what it feels like to me. Is that it's put in because like just get rid of poison. There's an extra damage on you. I don't know.
Yeah, like dwarves.
I'm sure there's probably something more like a better explanation, but that's just what it kind of looks like to me.
Maybe it's like I think it's maybe total body control.
Yeah.
I think that must be the idea.
Your body just says no to the poison.
Yeah, like Jojo squirting it at the wound.
He just flexes the poison out of his blood.
Yeah,
it's just a little. As I say, this is the only thing in here where I'm like, Fighter does get a lot of things. They do from their subclass, so that you can't have every level be something great.
You are a fighter as well. That's the
thing.
You're getting all the fighter things.
Yeah. And I think 10th level with most of these is pretty mediocre, except maybe like Champion. I think you get a second fighting style as like 10th level. And
sure, yeah.
Things like that.
Okay, yeah, well moving on from that. Again, psychic damage resistance, really good. Makes sense. There's a lot of nasty psychic damage in the game, so
cool. Resisting that is good.
Yeah. Bulwark of Force is your 15th level thing, so you're getting up in the levels now. This is, again, another defensive ability. As you might have guessed from the name, if you know what a bulwark is, it's like a fortress, I think. It's like a little fortress. Anyway, you shield yourself and others with your telekinetic force. This is a bonus action, actually, which is really cool. And when I was first reading this, I was like, oh, this doesn't seem very good. And then I read, like, all the way through, like, it's actually pretty cool. So there's a bonus action. You choose creatures. They include you. Up to 30 feet of you as a number that's equal to your intelligence modifier. So
by this level, should be like 4.
Yeah, and like if you have like a regular sized D&D party, I don't know. To be honest, in today's like day of D&D, I don't know what people consider a regular sized party. Because like I know like a lot of people have gotten to the game through things like Critical Role, where they have really big parties and stuff.
They're like
everybody when they're starting out. If they're not starting out to make a group, they want their friend group to get into it.
Yeah, so then they got. Yeah. I think at one point we had like 9 people at the table.
I think we had more. I think
there was more than 9.
I think there was a time. I think there was a time we had 11 people.
And that was 4th edition when combat took longer. Anyway,
no wonder lots of people stopped taking an interest in it when it took about over an hour to get to their turn.
Yeah, it really did. Anyway, but assuming that your intelligence
you're
modifier covers your party,
and you have a regular party,
then this will cover your party. Again, you might have probably at most like +4, unless you've really gone into it and you got 20 in intelligence, which would be awesome. But fighter, you got con, you got strength to think about. These creatures that you select within 30 feet of you as your bonus action again, they have half cover for a minute or until you're incapacitated. So half cover, I had to look up the cover rules recently because I always forget them. Half cover is a +2 to AC and +2 to saving throws. I think maybe it's just dex saving throws, maybe it's con as well, on ranged attacks. I don't think it has any effect on melee range stuff. Pretty sure it doesn't. Actually, I don't know. Maybe. I'm not going to look it up now, but I don't think it does. Certain. I can see the argument. But
cover only comes up for players that want to get into cover.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah,
yeah. Again, this is another one that uses a size of your dice of your psionic talent dice. So you notch it down 1. There's going to be situations where having +2 to saving throws and +2 to AC for range attacks could be really helpful.
You get 1 free casting of that.
That's the thing, yeah, it's not concentration, and a minute is going to cover, hopefully, any combat. If you have a combat that lasts more than 10 rounds, then that's a different issue. Like, that's another problem.
But yeah, you just decrease your die to get another casting of it. It's a resource replenishment thing, that thing we'd really like.
Well, yeah, that's right. You use it, and then it doesn't use anything, but if you use it again, that's right, that's when it decreases the dice.
Yeah, which is great. It means you do it more. And you can do more of these options.
Yep.
And again, it means you can go in on that first turn and do it, and not be like, "Am I going to suddenly lose before we even start fighting? Am I going to lose my edge, as it were?"
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be overpowered to give it just like a flat AC bonus.
If cover does apply to melee attacks as well, then
you're fine.
That's great.
You
and
cook
2 AC
them with oil.
Is good.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool, and especially it might even be worth it just for dodging dex checks on spells. Especially with 15th level, there's going to be people throwing some very horrific spells at you. Could be worth it.
And then I like this last one.
Yeah, 18th level.
Yeah, which is it is very high level ability for I think a 5th level spell. Basically.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Yeah, you Telekinetic Master. Basically. There's a whole line about your ability to move. You're just matched by few, and then you can cast a telekinesis spell with no components,
which is a really high level spell. It's
and I was like,
good.
And I don't know. I'm not familiar with the spell actually, and I didn't look it up. Do you? What can you?
I do have it on my current bard.
Ah, okay.
It lasts like an hour.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's really strong.
It's pretty good. You can lift up to £1,000 or you can do a lot with it. It's definitely got a lot of uses outside of combat and such.
You can also move people and creatures around, and it's interesting because it's like shoving, right?
Right.
Because it's contested by your spellcasting ability against the strength.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and you can also restrain people at range, which means you could restrain a guy and rush in for melee advantage.
Yeah.
And all kinds of crazy stuff. It's pretty good.
Okay.
And yeah, 5th level.
Cool. So yeah, this one you can't refresh. It does decrease your psionic die when you cast it the first time. But again, I guess it's when I first read this, I was like, that's a bit odd. But then I thought because I've been thinking this recently. I really appreciate subclasses that aren't really complicated, and I appreciate that this is just this feels like something from the base book. Hey, you get this good spell. You're a fighter that gets a good spell. That's good.
That's rare. It doesn't really happen very often.
Yeah. And it's going to be... You're going to have decent intelligence, hopefully, by this point. If you don't, then that's kind of going to be annoying, I suppose. But you could probably get away with having, mid-range intelligence. This is a character for whom a circlet of intellect would be a damn good item.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, compare this to War Master, which is you gain a superiority die when you enter combat. Or Champion, which is, I think you can basically regenerate.
Yeah, you have 10 hit points regeneration, which is pretty great to be fair. But
so they're really good. Like,
Yeah.
It's nice to have a capstone ability that you could maybe look forward to, because about 18th level is when, like, paladins and stuff are going to be getting their, like...
Paladins get their big thing at 20th, is their
No,
capstone
I'm
for
thinking
their
when
class.
they get 5th level spellcasting.
Yeah, I think it might be 17.
Maybe like maybe 16 as well. I don't know. It's been a while since I played a half caster.
It is high, but yeah.
So yeah, it's still going to feel like to a lot of people that this is a very capstone-y ability. Suddenly you can do very powerful things with your mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Particularly because you can do that and then, I guess, start like throwing objects at them with like
for sure,
sonic movement and things, you know.
And again, having the option outside of combat to use it is cool as well.
Because obviously none of the other abilities are like concentration, so you can have that up and then just do all of your other telekinetic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Stuff.
And again, with this one, this doesn't like refresh on a long rest, or this is just based on what the size of your psionic die. Mm-hmm. So in theory, like if you start with a D12, you've got you can cast it a couple of times. Now obviously we haven't played this, we haven't had time, so I don't know. Maybe in practice it doesn't feel as good as it might be. Like, but I think it seems I'm excited by the idea to like go like, ooh. You use your cool ability and then you want to refresh it, so you're going to use one of your basic abilities to try and get the die back up. You're going to try and roll to get like a max thing. It's very cool. I hope it works well in practice as well as looking awesome on paper, because it's very cool. And they have base 3 classes around it, so they must be pretty pleased with it.
And there could be lots of cool things that maybe your DM could give you loot that interacts with these dies.
Yeah, some cool unique magic items. I'm sure like you can have some Mind Flayer stuff. I know there's some Mind Flayer items in the I think it's in Xanathars, or it might be in Volos actually.
Volos,
yeah, Volos, and giving like some, because they say things like, "Oh, this can only be used if it's being used by like the Mind Flayer or one of its servants." Nah, give it to your Psi-Knight. Why not?
What? So if we think about just the dice for a second of actually playing it, it gets less random the higher level you get, because of it goes from a 1 in 6 chance of it degrading or degrading to a 1 in 12.
Exactly, yeah.
So it goes down to half as much, and even when it goes down, you then have that same chance at the level below for it to go back up again.
Yeah.
So your psychic power does become more consistent, stronger, and most of the time you're going to be rolling an 11 to a 2. So you're going to be keeping the die basically permanently up.
Yeah.
And even if it does go down, like you roll a 1 and it goes down, I cast telekinesis, it goes down, you could immediately Psi Strike and it go back up again.
Yeah. It's very cool, and again, that risk reward is so really like that. Like I like having a resources character. It's why I like Battle Master. Monster Hunter is one of my favorite subclasses. This has taken. I think this might be my favorite fighter now. I do really like Battle Master and Monster Hunter, but this is kind of it's similar to those, but it has like another, because like the superiority die are very cool, but like you don't get that many of them, so you're always thinking, oh, I probably shouldn't use it now because I might need it later. Whereas with this, it's like, I should use it because I want to get it back, which is really like a really weird way of thinking of it. It's very cool, really awesome.
There's one thing missing from it for me.
What's that?
And it's because we got ruined by Chronergy. I want an ability where I can burn them all.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, like Hail Mary.
Yeah, I can...
That would be cool. That would be cool. It would be very, very dramatic.
Well, I can spend all 5 levels of my dice or something to get something done. Like Chronergy. It's like, this fight's going badly. I'm going to control this round. I decide who wins and fails this round. I want that kind of moment. Maybe another one of these classes does. We haven't read them all yet.
That is true, yeah. That could be like a good magic item. It's like a thing that allows you to let it all out. Yeah. And then on like one of your hits, roll all your psionic dice on to increase the damage, maybe. We haven't actually read it, which is surprising. Yeah. I had literally, we were sitting down to play, or I was standing up, but we were starting to play D&D, and there was like, oh, this has come out. Oh no.
And
then it was like 1 a.m. We finished like, I'm going to bed, but tomorrow I'm going to read the first one and draw it. And now we're here. But it's very cool. It's given me hope for the next lot. I already liked the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer from a while ago, and I think this is an updated version of that, presumably to fit this mechanic in. So I'm looking forward to reading it.
I think we also liked Soul Knife.
Soul Knife was, again, you guys were surprised that I liked it because it's very much not, and I can see why you would think that from my usual, tastes, but I have not read it yet, so hopefully I like it even more than last time.
I was very kind on them before because I saw what they were going for and I enjoyed the flavour of what would it be to play those characters. But this is undoubtedly an improvement. It's so cool having its own power source, and that can't go without saying. I want more classes with more unique mechanics.
This is such a great way to, because before I was still a bit sad that Mystic wasn't going to be a class. I don't feel that way now because Mystic is a class. It's a subclass for these 3 characters, and maybe even some more in the future, which would be really cool.
This is better than Psi Points and Psionic Focuses.
Definitely. I still really want a Psionic Barbarian. I'm still holding out for that. I think that'd be awesome if they do it really well.
Yeah, I think they definitely achieved what they... Well, what they said in the beginning of this ARTcana document about, from the feedback, they thought that the Mystic was either too, or something was like too...
It was too strong and
too complicated.
It was everything.
I don't think this is too complicated, and I don't think it's particularly overpowered.
Definitely.
But I think it's very fun and cool.
It's so cool.
It gets a thumbs up out of 10.
Is it an Unearthed ARTcana?
It's an Unearthed ARTcana.
Not an
on the.
It's not the other one.
Not the other one. If we're gonna mention, I am vetoing this. If we are gonna mention feedback, I think it's worth mentioning. There's always a survey to do on the Unearthed ARTcana, like the page under for the previous Unearthed ARTcana. The surveys are super important. If you like it, then definitely let them know. When people don't like something, that's a stronger reaction to go and say I don't like it. Where if you like it, you just go yeah, great. So if you like this class, then give them positive feedback. If you think there's issues, then you can do that as well.
I should definitely do one at least once.
I only started doing them when we started making these videos. But I think it's definitely
they do take a little bit, but not too long.
That's the thing. The most frustrating thing about them is you have to go and because they just refer to the abilities by name. So you got to go get the PDF open and go through it.
And sometimes they ask for all your D&D experience and what you own. And
it's what did you play? It's okay, but they are they put this stuff out there for free, and
it's great.
It is what it's for.
Yeah, when they're doing well, as they lately have been doing very well, they definitely deserve that feedback. I think.
I will. Sure. I guess we'll briefly mention what I've drawn.
I love it. I love it. It's great.
I was remembering back the Paladin Watcher I drew. You remember that dwarf I drew who had a similar helmet, because I was imagining him being a dwarf who they fought mind flayers, and they were using, because the way I draw mind flayers is I give them goofy old fashioned sci-fi armor, and then the dwarf armor was kind of based on their armor, using their techniques to defend against them. And I think this guy could be from the same group. Maybe he's a human who's working with them and has been either experimented on to get psionic, or has just developed it through talent or randomness, whatever it be. And he does have an AT field a little bit.
He does. I love it. An absolute
just a
terror.
little bit of just an absolute terror field, just a little one for pushing himself forward.
Little dinky one.
If anyone's watching this and hasn't watched the other videos about the other Unearthed Arcanas that have been coming out since sort of December, I think we did an okay job, and there's some very cool subclasses if you haven't read all those.
Some good ideas to get the brain creative juices flowing on a new character.
Particularly the subclass option ones, Theo's done some amazing art for those.
Well, thank you.
All of those ones you really did you went above the original little tokens.
The more recent ones, I was I'm so tired of doing a simple thing. I want to just spend a whole day with a 1 pixel wide brush drawing a skeleton wearing a suit of armor.
So you did.
So I did.
You did that for 2 days because you didn't like the first one.
Oh yeah, no, I did too. Oh my god. I still kind of want to revisit that druid because I love the druid so much, and I don't. That's the thing now, because the next character I was gonna make next time I make a character was gonna be the druid, but now I really like this fighter.
I can get in this too. I can get in this too. There's too many classes. I haven't played a monk yet, so
I love the monk bit, but I've never played one. God damn it!
I was reading through Way of the Open Hand. The base book monk,
the base
and
book.
I was like, man, this is cool. Why haven't I played this yet? And then it's
this fight is very cool, but what I'm more interested in, currently I've been doing some DMing, and I think the psionic mechanic, the psionic talent mechanic, could be applied to some psionic monsters in a cool way.
Yeah,
that could be very cool. Might be a little bit of bookkeeping for the DM, a little bit more than you'd want to do. But if you had a cool boss and you wanted to have a slightly random mechanic to how much they're going to be doing and how much damage they'll put out, that could be interesting.
Mind Flayer plus minions, and when he gets to his D12, he can do Psionic Blasts.
Yeah.
Something like that. Cool. He's building up his power.
Right. I think that's the end of this video. Thanks very much. Again, tune in for more great D&D and drawing, probably.
We'll have our 200 sub special ready soon. It's now.
We still got to make the 100 subscriber special.
Yeah.
I've already worked on the crossover for 1 million, guys. Don't worry, I've got my feelings out.
Yeah, million sub special coming soon, I hope.